Tell me you got the invitation. Logan's voice came through my phone before I could even unfold the card. I stood in my kitchen with the envelope still open in one hand, staring at his name printed beside someone else's. Logan Reed and Daniel Mercer. Saturday, October 18th. My breath hitched so fast I forgot to answer. Nathan. I cleared my throat. Yeah, I got it. And he sounded nervous, which made no sense. He was the one getting married. And it looks expensive. Logan laughed, low and familiar. The kind of laugh I'd heard in dorm rooms, parking lots, and across too many late-night diner booths. That's your reaction? What do you want me to say? I forced a smile even though he couldn't see it. The paper's nice. You're an idiot. There was a pause. Not long. Just long enough for my eyes to drop back to the card. 10 years of friendship. And somehow his wedding invitation still felt like news I wasn't prepared to hear. Which was ridiculous. I knew he was engaged. I'd met Daniel. I'd congratulated them. I'd even helped Logan choose the restaurant where he proposed. This was just paper. A date. A formal version of something I already knew. That was what I kept telling myself. There's something else, Logan murmured. I leaned against the counter. You're not making me give a speech, are you? Actually, a cold knot formed in my gut. Logan, I want you as my best man. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. I was his best friend. This was normal. Good, even. You have brothers. They're useless. They'll be offended. They'll survive. I heard movement on his end, then his voice softened. Come on, Nate. I couldn't do this without you. A dull ache spread through my ribs. He'd said things like that before. When his dad was in the hospital. When he lost his first real job. When we were 22 and he called me at 2 in the morning because he couldn't stop thinking about his future. I'd always shown up. That was our thing. Logan needed me, and I came. I just never let myself ask what would happen when he didn't need me anymore. Yeah, I managed. Okay, I'll do it. His relief was immediate. Seriously? Don't make me regret it. Too late. You're already planning the bachelor party. Absolutely not. He laughed again, and for a second, everything felt normal. Then he went quiet. Daniel's been slammed at work, he admitted. Wedding stuff is getting kind of intense. That happens. I know. Another pause. I was hoping you could help me with something. I looked down at their names again. What kind of something? Logan exhaled slowly. My vows. My fingers tightened around the invitation. You want me to help you write vows to your fiancé? You know me better than anyone. He said it casually, like it wouldn't land directly in the center of my chest. I swallowed and stared at the date until the numbers blurred. Sure, I whispered. Of course I'll help. I thought receiving the invitation was the part that would hurt. I was wrong. 3 days later, Logan showed up at my apartment carrying 2 coffees and the same nervous smile he used whenever he wanted something. Peace offering, he announced, holding 1 cup toward me. I took it automatically, then looked at the label. Oat milk. 1 sugar. Extra shot. Exactly how I ordered it. You remembered. His eyes stayed on mine a second too long. I remember everything about you. My hand tightened around the cup. Logan blinked, like he had only just heard himself, then stepped past me into the apartment. That sounded weird. A little. Don't make it a thing. Wasn't planning to. I was absolutely making it a thing. He dropped onto my couch and pulled a folder from his backpack. Wedding notes. Guest lists. Venue contracts. A page labeled vows in large black letters with nothing written underneath. Strong start, I muttered. Logan leaned back and sighed. I've been staring at that page for 4 days. You write project reports for a living. Concrete doesn't care about my feelings. I sat beside him, leaving what I thought was a reasonable amount of space. Logan immediately shifted closer so we could both see the page. His knee pressed against mine. He didn't move it. Neither did I. Just write what you love about Daniel, I suggested. Easy. Logan stared at the paper. Right. The silence stretched. I took a drink of coffee to give my hands something to do. How did you know you wanted to marry him? His jaw tightened slightly. That's a big question for before noon. They're wedding vows. Big questions are kind of the point. He gave me a look, then glanced back down. Daniel's steady. Smart. He knows what he wants. Those are good things. Yeah. Logan tapped the pen against the folder. He's got his whole life mapped out. House in the suburbs. 2 dogs. Sunday dinners. Sounds nice. It does. But his voice didn't match the words. I watched him for a moment. You don't sound excited. His eyes lifted to mine. For a second, something unguarded crossed his face. Then he smiled. You always do that. Do what? Notice when I'm lying. A sudden weight settled in my stomach. You're bad at it. Not with everyone. The room went quiet again. Logan looked down, rolling the pen between his fingers. Do you remember freshman year? I laughed softly. You'll need to be more specific. You made a lot of bad decisions. The deal. I knew exactly which one he meant. We had been 19, exhausted, and eating cold pizza on the floor of his dorm room when Logan decided that if we were both single at 35, we would marry each other. We had shaken hands on it like it was legally binding. After that, he called me his backup husband whenever one of us had a terrible date. It had always been a joke. It had to be. You mean your emergency marriage plan? Our emergency marriage plan. He nudged my knee with his. Don't erase yourself from history. I forced a laugh. Well, congratulations. You found someone before the deadline. Logan smiled, but it faded quickly. His gaze dropped to where our legs were still touching. Yeah. I waited for him to move. He didn't. You found someone better, I added, because apparently I enjoyed making things worse. Logan looked at me then. Really looked at me. The kind of look that made the rest of the room disappear for one dangerous second. I'm not sure better is the word I'd use. Logan didn't explain what he meant. Of course he didn't. He just looked away, picked up his coffee, and spent the next hour pretending we hadn't almost stepped into something neither of us knew how to name. By Saturday afternoon, we were standing inside a menswear store downtown while a salesman pinned the sleeves of Logan's wedding suit. I had agreed to help because Daniel was working again. That was becoming a pattern I was trying very hard not to notice. Your fiancé has good taste, the salesman commented, glancing at me through the mirror. All the air left my lungs. Logan's eyes met mine in the reflection. Neither of us corrected him right away. It was only a second. Maybe two. Still too long. Then Logan cleared his throat. He's not my fiancé. The salesman looked between us. Sorry. You two just seemed close. I finished quickly. We're best friends. The words came out sharper than I meant them to. Logan's expression changed, just slightly, before he turned back toward the mirror. Right? Best friends. The salesman apologized and moved away to grab another jacket. I stared at the floor, wishing I could disappear into the carpet. You didn't have to sound offended, Logan murmured. I didn't. You kind of did. I was embarrassed. Because someone thought you were marrying me? His tone was light, almost teasing, but when I looked up, he wasn't smiling. My heart gave a painful lurch. Don't make this weird. Logan held my gaze for another second, then lifted both hands. Wouldn't dream of it. The new jacket fit better, but the tie was crooked. Logan kept pulling at it until I finally stepped closer. Stop moving. You sound like my mother. Your mother has probably considered strangling you too. I knew I should have stepped back, but instead, I smoothed the front of his tie and let my fingers rest there a second too long. Logan's breathing changed. Barely, but I noticed. I noticed everything about him. Nate, he said quietly. My heart started pounding. What? He didn't answer. His eyes stayed on mine, close enough now that I could see the tiny crease between his brows. Then the salesman returned with a measuring tape, and the moment broke. I stepped back so quickly my elbow hit the display behind me. Logan caught my arm before I lost my balance. His hand closed around my wrist, steady and warm. He didn't let go when I was standing straight again. The salesman smiled like he had just figured something out. You really do know him well. Logan's thumb moved once against my wrist. Better than anyone. Later, in the parking garage, my phone buzzed before I reached my car. A message from Logan. You were right about the tie? Then another appeared. Daniel's never noticed when I'm uncomfortable in a suit. I stared at the screen. Before I could answer, a third message came through. You always do. Logan came over that night with the vow folder under one arm and takeout from the tie placed near my apartment. I brought pad CEW, he announced as I opened the door. That doesn't make this less weird. It usually makes everything less weird. He walked past me like he had 100 times, kicked off his shoes, and headed straight for the couch. I followed with 2 forks and tried not to think about his messages from the parking garage. You always do. For words. I had read them at least 20 times. Logan spread the blank vow page across the coffee table. All right. Be honest. How bad is this? He handed me his phone. The note on the screen had 3 sentences. Daniel is kind. Daniel is patient. Daniel makes me feel safe. I looked at Logan. It sounds like a job reference. That's what I thought. Then write something real. He leaned back, rubbing both hands over his face. I'm trying. What do you love about him? Logan went still. The television played quietly in the background. Some basketball game neither of us was watching. You already asked me that. And you never answered. His jaw tightened. I should have let it go. Instead, I reached for the folder and pulled the page closer. Forget the wedding for a second. Tell me about the person you can't imagine losing. Logan stared at me. Not the paper. Me. My pulse started climbing. He knows when I'm pretending to be fine. He began quietly. He shows up even when I don't ask. My fingers froze around the pen. Logan shifted closer, his knee pressing against mine. He remembers stupid things. The coffee I like. Which side of the bed I sleep on. The fact that I hate driving in heavy snow. Logan. He makes me laugh when I'm angry. His voice dropped. And somehow, he's the first person I want to call when anything happens. I could barely breathe. None of that sounded like Daniel. Every memory flashed through my head at once. The hospital waiting room. Road trips. 2 in the morning phone calls. Logan asleep in my passenger seat while snow covered the highway. I set the pen down before he could see my hand shaking. You should tell Daniel that. Logan's eyes didn't leave mine. What if I'm not talking about Daniel? The room went silent. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard it hurt. Don't. The word came out softer than I intended. Don't what? He leaned closer. There were only inches between us now. Don't say things you can't take back. Something shifted in his expression. Fear, maybe. Or relief. His hand moved across the cushion, his pinky hooking lightly with mine. A deliberate touch. A question I wasn't brave enough to answer. Do you remember our deal? He whispered. The backup husband thing? Did you ever think about it for real? My heart started pounding. I looked at his mouth for one stupid second, and Logan noticed. His breath caught. He moved closer, slow enough that I could have stopped him. I didn't. Then his phone lit up on the table. Daniel calling. Logan froze. The distance between us suddenly felt dangerous. He pulled his hand away and stared at the screen until the call stopped. Neither of us spoke. A second later, Daniel called again. Logan stood so fast his knee hit the table. I should take this. Yeah. My voice barely worked. He grabbed his phone and walked toward the hallway, but stopped at the door. His back stayed, turned to me. For what it's worth, he murmured. I was never joking about everything. Then he answered the call and left me sitting beside a page of vows that still had Daniel's name at the top. The bachelor party happened 2 weeks later at a crowded bar in River North, and Logan spent the first hour pretending everything was fine. He laughed when his brothers made jokes about married life. He let his college friends buy him terrible shots. He even smiled for pictures with a plastic crown someone had forced onto his head. But every time I looked across the room, he was already watching me. I told myself it was because of what almost happened on my couch. Nothing more. We hadn't talked about it. Logan had texted me the next morning about catering prices, and I had answered like Daniel's phone call hadn't interrupted something we could never undo. Around 10, a guy named Mason joined our table. He was a friend of Logan's younger brother, tall, easy smile, the kind of person who could flirt without looking nervous. You're Nathan, right? He slid into the empty seat beside me. The famous best man. I glanced toward Logan. Famous sounds dangerous. Logan talks about you constantly. A wave of nausea washed over me. Mostly complaints, I hope. Mason laughed and leaned closer so I could hear him over the music. Actually, he makes you sound kind of perfect. Before I could answer, one of Logan's brothers shouted from across the table. Careful, Mason. Nate's basically Logan's other fiancé. Everyone laughed. I did too, because that was what I always did. Logan didn't. His smile disappeared for half a second before he lifted his drink. Find a new joke, Aaron. The table went strangely quiet. Aaron raised both hands. Relax. I'm kidding. Yeah. Logan looked down at his glass. I know. A few minutes later, Mason asked if I wanted another drink. I followed him toward the bar, mostly because sitting beside Logan felt impossible. Mason was nice. Funny. Available. I tried to focus on that. Then a hand settled against the middle of my back. Logan, can I borrow him? Mason looked between us. Sure. Logan guided me into the hallway near the restrooms, his hand staying there until the music faded behind us. What are you doing? I turned to face him. Getting a drink. With him. That usually happens at bars. Logan's jaw flexed. Are you leaving with Mason? I stared at him. Why do you care? I don't. The answer came too quickly. I crossed my arms. Right. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're supposed to be here with me. I'm your best man, Logan, not your date. His eyes held mine. For a second, he looked almost angry. Then something softer took its place. I know what you are. Do you? His mouth opened, but no words came out. Behind us, the hallway door swung open. Aaron stopped when he saw us, standing too close. His gaze dropped to Logan's hand, still resting near my waist. Logan pulled it away immediately. Everything good? Aaron's tone had changed. Logan stepped back. Fine. Aaron didn't look convinced. Neither was I. When we returned to the table, Logan sat beside me and barely spoke. An hour later, he fell asleep against my shoulder in the back of the rideshare. His brothers were arguing in the front, too distracted to notice when Logan's fingers found mine between the seats. His grip tightened. Nate, he murmured, eyes still closed. Don't let me do this without you. I looked down at our joined hands and felt a cold shiver run down my spine. I no longer knew whether he meant the wedding. Logan woke up on my couch the next morning with one shoe missing and his phone pressed against his chest. I was in the kitchen making coffee when he appeared in the doorway, hair a mess, eyes narrowed against the light. How bad was I? I kept my back to him. You tried to argue with the rideshare driver about whether Batman could survive in Chicago. Reasonable question. You also called your brother a human traffic cone. Still reasonable. I handed him a mug. He reached for it. His gaze locked entirely on my mouth instead of the coffee. This time, neither of us pretended not to notice. Logan looked down at the coffee. Oat milk. 1 sugar. Extra shot. You remembered. I almost laughed. That's my line. His mouth twitched, but the smile didn't stay. He sat at the kitchen table, rubbing his thumb along the rim of the mug. Did I say anything else? My mouth went dry. You don't remember? Some of it. How convenient. Logan lifted his eyes. There was no humor in them now. Nate. I leaned against the counter, arms folded. You held my hand. His jaw shifted. Okay. You asked me not to let you do this without me. The room went quiet. Outside, a truck rumbled past on the street. Logan stared at the table like the wood might give him an answer. Did you mean the wedding? I finally asked. His hand stopped moving. That was enough. A heavy pressure built in my chest. Logan, I don't know. That's not fair. I know. He stood, then immediately looked like he regretted it. We were only a few feet apart now. I'm trying to understand what's happening. You're getting married in 6 weeks. I know that too. Then why do you keep looking at me like this? The question came out before I could stop it. Logan's breathing changed. He took 1 step closer, then another. Like what? Like you want me to say something you're too scared to say first. His eyes dropped to my mouth, just for a second. My pulse jumped. Maybe I am scared, he admitted. Of what? Logan let out a slow breath. That I waited too long. That you don't feel it. That I'm making all of this up because the wedding is getting close. I couldn't move. For years, I had imagined hearing something like that. Now that it was happening, all I felt was fear. Last night, he continued, voice lower. When Mason was talking to you, I hated it. I swallowed. You're allowed to be protective. That wasn't what it was. His hand came up, stopping just short of my arm. I didn't want him touching you. I didn't want you leaving with him. And when you pulled away from me in that hallway, he looked down, almost embarrassed. I wanted to pull you back. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. Logan, you can't say that, and then go home to Daniel. I know. His fingers finally closed around my wrist, gentle but certain. But I also can't keep pretending it felt like nothing. I looked at his hand, then back at him. What felt real? His grip tightened slightly. Logan held my gaze. You and me. For 1 second, I forgot how to breathe. Logan was still holding my wrist, his thumb resting over my pulse like he could feel exactly what he had just done to me. You and me? I repeated. He nodded once. Barely. Then his phone buzzed on the table. Daniel's name lit up the screen. Logan let go of me so fast it felt like being dropped. The room changed immediately. He stared at the phone, then at me, panic replacing everything that had been there a second earlier. I need to go. My breath caught in my throat. Of course. Nate, that's not what I meant. You don't have to explain. I stepped back and reached for his jacket from the chair. You're confused. The wedding is close. You had too much to drink last night. Logan's face hardened. Don't do that. Do what? Decide what I feel because it's easier than listening to me. I held out the jacket. You just pulled away the second Daniel called. Because he's my fiancé. The word landed between us. Logan heard it too. His expression shifted, but it was already too late. I looked down. Exactly. Nate. Go home. He didn't move. I wasn't taking it back. You don't get to tell me this feels real and then walk back into a wedding like nothing happened. My voice stayed quiet, which somehow made it worse. I can't be the person you use to figure yourself out. Logan dragged a hand through his hair. That's not what you are. Then what am I? Silence. He looked at me like he wanted to answer, but fear kept closing his mouth. I laughed once, without humor. Right. I don't want to lose you. His voice cracked just enough to hurt. And I don't want to lose everything else either. There it was. The honest part. Not romantic. Not clean. Just scared. You can't keep both, I told him. Logan's eyes dropped to the floor. For the first time in 10 years, I watched him choose not to come closer. He took the jacket from my hand. Our fingers touched, but only for a second. I need time. You have 6 weeks. He flinched. I hated that I noticed. I hated that some part of me still wanted to comfort him. Logan opened the door, then stopped with his back to me. What happened last night was real to me. I closed my eyes. Then do something real about it. He left without answering. The apartment felt too quiet after the door shut. Audio pause. 3 seconds, /fade out and fade in. For 3 days, Logan didn't call. No coffee messages. No wedding updates. Nothing. I told myself the distance was good. Necessary. Proof that I had imagined more than he meant. Then, on the 4th night, Daniel texted me. I stared at the message until a sickening lurch rolled through my stomach. Has Logan told you he wants to postpone the wedding? Daniel's message stayed on my screen for almost a full minute before I answered. No, he hasn't told me anything. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, then came back. He's been distant for weeks. I thought it was stress. Now he says he needs time, but he won't tell me why. I didn't know what to say to that. Sorry felt insulting. I know I felt worse. Before I could decide, someone knocked on my door. 3 hard knocks. Then silence. I already knew. Logan stood in the hallway with rain darkening the shoulders of his jacket. No umbrella. No ring. My eyes dropped to his left hand before I could stop them. He noticed. Daniel has it. I stepped aside, but he didn't come in. Did he text you? Yeah. Logan looked down the hallway, jaw tight. I figured he might. You postponed the wedding. I ended it. The words hit harder than I expected. Logan, don't. He finally looked at me. His eyes were tired, red around the edges. Don't tell me I did it for you. Did you? His hand tightened around the wet sleeve of his jacket. Not only for you. I waited. Rainwater dripped onto the floor between us. I was standing in our kitchen this morning, he continued, and Daniel was asking whether we should change the flowers. I realized I had no idea what he'd been saying for the last 5 minutes. That happens when you're stressed. I was thinking about your couch. My pulse pounded in my ears. Logan took 1 step closer. I was thinking about how close I came to kissing you. About holding your hand in the car. About the way you looked at me when I said it felt real. I looked away. You were confused. I'm done letting you say that for me. His voice stayed quiet, but something in it had changed. No joke. No escape route. I was confused about what to do, not about what I felt. I folded my arms, mostly to keep my hands still. You were about to marry someone. I know. You hurt him. Logan flinched. I know that too. The hallway went silent. He didn't defend himself. Somehow, that made it harder to stay angry. I'm not asking you to make this okay, he murmured. I'm asking you to stop pretending you don't know what's happening between us. My throat went dry. What do you want me to say? Logan moved closer until there was barely any space left. His hand lifted, then stopped near mine. Waiting. Tell me I imagined it. I stared at him. Tell me you never thought about our stupid deal. Tell me you didn't almost kiss me. Tell me you don't feel anything, and I'll leave. My heart pounded against my ribs. He waited. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. Logan's expression softened, but he didn't smile. That's what I thought. You don't get to be relieved. I'm not. His fingers brushed mine. I'm terrified. I looked down at our hands. I can't be the next thing you jump into because the wedding fell apart. You're not the next thing. His voice dropped. You're the thing I kept trying not to choose. That broke something in me. I closed my fingers around his hand. Logan exhaled like he had been holding his breath for years. He didn't kiss me. He just stood there, holding on. And for the first time, neither of us pretended it meant nothing. We didn't start dating that night. That mattered. Logan went home, talked to Daniel again, and spent the next few weeks doing the uncomfortable work of being honest without asking me to make it easier for him. We texted less than usual at first, then more. Not flirtier, just clearer. No jokes hiding real questions. No pretending everything was normal when it wasn't. A month later, he asked me to meet him at the diner near our old college apartment. The same place where we had made the backup husband deal over cold fries and bad coffee. Logan was already in our usual booth when I arrived. 2 mugs sat on the table. Mine had oat milk, 1 sugar, and an extra shot. "You're predictable," he told me. "You memorized my coffee order 10 years ago. That doesn't make you less predictable." I slid into the seat across from him. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. It felt strange being nervous around someone who had seen me sick, broke, angry, and once wearing a Halloween costume I still refused to discuss. Logan reached into his jacket and placed an envelope on the table. My heart leaped into my throat. "That isn't funny. Open it." "Logan, it's not a wedding invitation." I gave him a look. "Your timing needs work." "I know." Inside was a small card with his terrible handwriting across the center. "Dinner with me. No pretending this time." I read it twice, then looked up. Logan was watching me carefully, one hand wrapped around his coffee mug. "You made a formal invitation for a date." I panicked. "Clearly. You can say no." His voice softened. "I mean that." I turned the card over. On the back, he had written one more line. "Not because I need you. Because I choose you." A familiar ache blossomed in my ribs, but this time, it didn't hurt. "You know this diner counts as dinner. This is the invitation to a better one." Confident. Hopeful. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I slid out of the booth and moved to his side. Logan shifted over without a word. Our shoulders touched. His hand rested on the seat between us, palm open, waiting. I placed mine in it. He closed his fingers around mine and left them there. No pulling away when the waitress came over. No dropping my hand when 2 guys from college recognized us near the register. One of them looked down at our joined hands, then back at Logan. "So the backup husband thing finally happened?" Logan glanced at me. Years ago, we would have laughed too quickly. We would have turned it into another joke before anyone could see too much. This time, he squeezed my hand. Something like that. We walked out together after midnight. The city was cold, and Logan kept bumping his shoulder against mine like he always had. The routine felt familiar. The difference was that neither of us had to pretend anymore. At the corner, he stopped beneath the streetlight. "For the record, I was serious when I made that deal." "You were 19. Still serious." I smiled. "Good." Logan looked relieved. "Good." I stepped closer and kissed him once, soft and quick, before I could overthink it. When I pulled back, he was smiling in that quiet way he only did when something actually mattered. Then he took my hand again, and we kept walking. The first invitation made me think I was losing my best friend. The second showed me he had been trying to find his way back to me too.